The difference between a black woman and a white woman. A white woman was raised to be a wife, while a black woman was raised to be independent. A white woman was raised to be submissive to her husband, while a black woman was raised to do without a man. And if she do get a man, he ain't shit. A white woman will listen to when her husband speaks, and speak afterwards, while a black woman will yell on top of her lungs while her husband is trying to talk. A white woman will have a discussion, while a black woman will rather have an argument. I'm not hating on nobody, but I'm just saying.
Black men are choosing white women because black women are more combative. They're more to handle. That means that black women need to change their behavior and get on program. Why would I want to go home and deal with a woman that I have to handle?
Black women are more strong-minded. We have things that we want.
Yeah, that's not the question though. If he is doing that, right, he's doing his job, why would he then want to come home to a woman?
A black woman.
No, listen. Why,
to a black woman.
Just take
say
away,
that. Say that.
Forget about any racists. Just think about this.
Okay.
Why would any man, let's speak about the genders, why would any man want to go home to a woman that he then has to handle and do another job? He's already out there working and doing things. Why would he want to have to come home?
Because she has a mind of her own, because she feels as though...
If you got a man that's being masculine, taking care of the bills and protecting and providing for you, you nurture that man. You be feminine. You be submissive.
Why do you believe that most white women marry up and, minorities, black women marry up?
Because white women have been trained by their mothers to marry up. The man is supposed to take care of you. The man is the head of the household, where a lot of times, a lot of our sisters have been told that black men ain't shit. You feel what I'm saying? I can do it for myself. I made it on my own.
Do you think that is why in society it is sometimes deemed the angry black woman is more masculine, whereas you see a lot of brothers getting with white women because they're more submissive?
Did you see the NBA draft class this year? It's a bunch of high yellow brothers like me and him in that class. So what you think? Absolutely.
Guys, let's talk about one of the most controversial and emotionally charged conversation that has been floating around social media, podcast, and YouTube panels. It's the debate surrounding black women, white women, femininity, masculinity, and relationships, especially when it comes to the choices that many black men are making when it comes to marriage and dating. Now, I want to be clear from the very beginning. This is not about shaming one group of women, nor is it about putting one pedestal higher than the other. What I'm doing here is reacting to the arguments, the perceptions, and the sources that shape the why people see gender roles in the context of interracial dating. The claims are bold, sometimes painful, but very real for those who believe them. And the narrative goes something like this. According to these arguments, white women are often raised to be wives, to be submissive, to listen to their husbands, to follow traditional structures of domesticity from a young age. Many are taught by their mothers to marry up, to seek stability, to expect provisions from their husbands, and to embrace femininity. They are described as more willing to have discussions instead of arguments, to let their husbands speak first, to respect the masculine role of protector and provider. Meanwhile, black women are said to be raised differently. They are often taught self-reliance, sometimes even drilled with phrases like "black men ain't nothing" or "do it on your own." That self-reliance, while powerful, is described in this argument as turning into confrontation, as creating a sense of independence that feels more like competition than partnership. The stereotype paints black women as loud, combative, and hard to handle, often associated with the famous trope of the angry black woman. And this is where the argument really hits up. That this contrast is why black men are increasingly choosing white women, because after spending the day working hard, paying bills, and being a man, a lot of black men, according to these sources, say they don't want to go back home to a woman who feels like another job. Instead, they want peace. They want softness. They want nurturing. And in these arguments, white women are framed as more likely to provide that. On the flip side, black women are told they need to get on program to become more submissive, to embrace femininity, and to let go of that perceived combative nature if they want to attract and maintain masculine men who provide. Now, before we dive deeper, I want you to pause and really think about what's being said here. These claims aren't just casual opinions. They are rooted in decades of stereotypes, cultural practices, and societal, messaging about what femininity and masculinity should look like. They touch on issues of, race, gender, power, and relationships all at once. So in this reaction, I want to break it all down, not just to repeat the claims, but to analyze where they come from, what they mean, and what they do to both black women and black men when we accept these stereotypes at face value. Because here's the truth. These perceptions, whether you agree with them or not, shape real world choices. They influence who people date, who they marry, and how they view women from different backgrounds. And they also play a big role in how women see themselves. So let's get into it, guys. Drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Yeah. When we talk about this issue, we can't ignore the historical and cultural baggage that lies beneath it. Let's start with gender role expectations. The stereotype that white women are submissive, docile, and feminine has long roots in Western society. Historically, white women were framed as the ideal wives in, a patriarchal system. Women who stayed at home, cooked, cleaned, raised the children, and deferred to their husbands. Even though times have changed, remnants of these expectations remain, especially in conservative and traditional households where daughters are raised to expect that men will provide. Now, contrast that with the experience of black women. For centuries, black women have not had the privilege of resting solely in domestic roles. From slavery through segregation and even into modern times, many black women had to work outside the home, often carrying both economic and domestic responsibility. They weren't raised to wait for provision. They were raised to survive. They were raised to carry burdens. They were raised to stand firm in absence of consistent male support, whether because of systemic oppression, incarceration of black men. That survival-based independence is often misread or perhaps framed as aggression. Instead of being seen as resilience, it's labeled as combativeness. Instead of being respected as strength, it's mocked as masculinity. And when black women assert themselves, society often punishes them with the stereotype of being too much to handle. Meanwhile, the narrative paints white women's reliance on men as feminine virtue, while black women's independence is painted as a flaw. Do you see the double standard? But here's the reality: both systems come with consequences. The training of white women to marry up and depend on men can sometimes lead to unhealthy power dynamics in marriages, where the woman sacrifices her voice for the sake of peace. On the other hand, the training of black women to rely on only on themselves can sometimes create walls in relationships, making it hard to embrace vulnerability or partnership. So when black men say they are choosing white women because they are more submissive, more peaceful, less combative, it's not just about individual women. It's about the cultural scripts that shape, expectations of femininity. It's about what society tells men they should want and what women are conditioned to provide. And let's not pretend that race doesn't, complicate this even more. When a black man chooses a white woman, it's not just about her being submissive. It taps into historical dynamics of interracial relationships, privilege and perceived validation that comes with dating outside your race. For some men, it may feel like a step up in status. For others, it's simply about peace of mind. Either way, these choices aren't happening in a vacuum. They are shaped by centuries of stereotypes and societal pressures. But the big question remains, is the solution really for Black women to change and become more submissive? Or is the problem much deeper, rooted in how society values different types of femininity, and how masculinity is defined in opposition to that? Now, let's zoom in on the other heart of this conversation, the relationship between masculinity, femininity, and the value of women. The sources make a bold claim. A man who is masculine, who works hard, pays the bills, protects and provides, wants to come home to a woman who nurtures, who submits, who doesn't argue, who doesn't feel like another job. The ideal woman, according to this view, is soft, supportive, and peaceful. Now, on the surface, that sounds reasonable. Who doesn't want peace in their home? Who doesn't want harmony instead of chaos? But the problem is that this logic reduces women's entire, value to their ability to soothe men. It tells women that their worth is measured by how much they submit and how little they resist. And when you apply that logic to race, you create a dangerous hierarchy. White women are seen as desirable because they embody this submissive ideal, while Black women are rejected because they are perceived as combative. That's not just about dating preferences. That's about reinforcing stereotypes that have existed for centuries. Think about it. The angry Black woman trope has been weaponized to, silence Black women in workplaces, in politics, and in relationships. It tells society that if a Black woman raises her voice, she's aggressive. If she defends herself, she's combative. If she asserts boundaries, she's masculine. Meanwhile, a white woman doing the same thing might simply be called assertive or passionate. On the other hand, the submissive white woman trope paints the image of purity and ideal femininity that doesn't always, match reality. Not all white women are submissive. Not all are docile. Not all are looking up to marry. And yet, this stereotype persists because it feeds into men's desire to peace and validation of their masculinity. So here's where the real tension lies. Men want women who support them, but society has decided that support looks like silence, like obedience, like submissiveness, and because white women are framed as embodying those traits, they are favored in these conversations. But let's challenge that. True support in a relationship isn't about silence. It's about partnership. It's about a woman who can nurture while also speaking her truth. It's about a man who provides but also respects his partner's voice. It's about balance. And balance can exist in relationships with both Black women and white women, but only if we stop clinging to outdated stereotypes. When Black men say they don't want to come home to a woman who feels like another job, I get it. No one wants stress at home. But is the problem really that Black women are inherently combative? Or is it that society has told them their independence makes them undesirable? Is it that they've been forced into survival mode for so long that vulnerability feels risky? Instead of asking Black women to change, maybe we should be asking why Black women have been put in positions where they had to be independent in the first place. Maybe the question isn't about submissiveness versus independence, but about healing the rift created by history, economics, and cultural condition. Because here's the truth: Black women are not a monolith. Some are soft, nurturing, and gentle. Some are bold, outspoken, and fiery. Some are mixed of both, and the same can be said for white women. Yet society keeps pigeonholing them into categories that limit their humanity. The danger of this conversation is that it creates division where there doesn't need to be. It pits black women against white women, and in doing so, it also fractures the relationship between black men and black women. It tells black men that peace lies outside their race, while telling black women that love only comes if they silence themselves, and that's toxic. So here's my reaction. These stereotypes are harmful. They hurt black women by devaluing their independence. They hurt white women by forcing them into submissive roles that may not reflect who they are. And they hurt black men by convincing them that masculinity is only validated by finding a submissive partner. Relationships are not about domination and submission. They are about partnership and respect. True masculinity is not threatened by a strong woman, and true femininity is not defined by silence. At the end of the day, the conversation about why some black men choose white women should not be reduced to stereotypes about who's submissive and who's combative. It should be about breaking down the systems that made these stereotypes exist in the first place. It should be about allowing women, black or white, to define their femininity on their own terms, and it should be about men choosing partners who bring them peace, not because of their race, but because of who they are as individuals. That's the truth we need to sit with. Yeah, guys, drop a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. Also, remember to subscribe, like, and share as well. And until next time, bye-bye.